My husband's mother stormed into the hospital room and demanded, "You'll give the baby my last name, or else." My husband nodded and said, "You don't have a choice." Smiling, I looked at the nurse and said, "Please read the father's name on the birth certificate." My husband snatched it from her hands and went pale. Nathan and I have been married for 4 years. It wasn't a bad marriage in the beginning, but his mother was always in our business. Evelyn is the kind of woman who believes she's the queen of the universe and that her son is the most perfect man to ever exist. I was just some girl who stole her son. She has never liked me. Not once. At first, it was subtle, little comments about how I probably don't know how to cook real meals when she saw me making dinner. Then, when we bought our house, she made passive-aggressive jabs about how it was too modern and not right for a real family. Then, the baby talk started. Evelyn wanted grandkids. But not just any grandkids. They had to be her grandkids. They had to have her family name. Nathan and I had already talked about it. I told him, very clearly, that I wanted our baby to have my last name. He never argued. He said it wasn't a big deal. But now? Now, I'm sitting in a hospital bed, exhausted and sore, and his mother storms in like she owns the place, demanding that the nurse put her family's name on my child's birth certificate. And Nathan? He agrees with her. I thought I was hearing things at first. Maybe I was still out of it from the epidural. But no. Nathan stood there, arms crossed, looking at me like this was already decided. Like I was just somebody in this situation and not the actual mother of the child I just gave birth to. Evelyn was standing next to him, smug as hell, like she'd just won. "You'll give the baby our last name," she said, as if it was a fact. "It's our family name. That's just the way it is." I looked at Nathan. "We talked about this. I gave birth. The baby gets my name." Nathan laughed. Laughed. Like I was being ridiculous. Like I had any reason to think my opinion mattered here. "You don't have a choice, Claire," he said. "This is what's best." I stared at him, trying to process what was happening. I was so tired. I hadn't slept in over 24 hours. My body felt like it had been ripped apart. And now, here I was, being ambushed in a hospital bed. Evelyn just smiled, like this was all so normal. "You should be grateful, dear," she said. "Our family is giving your child a legacy." I wanted to scream. And then, the nurse walked in. The nurse was holding the paperwork for the birth certificate. She barely had time to say anything before Evelyn snatched it from her hands. "Good, this is what we need," she said, already reaching for the pen. "We'll just get this signed," and I cut her off. "Please read the father's name on that document." The room went silent. Nathan frowned, then reached for the paper himself. The second he saw it, his face drained of color. Evelyn yanked it from him, scanning the page. Then, she screamed. Not a normal scream. Not a little gasp. This was a full-on meltdown. Because the father's name on that birth certificate wasn't Nathan. Evelyn's face turned red. Not the embarrassed kind of red, but the rage-filled, veins popping out of her forehead kind. What is this?" she shrieked, gripping the birth certificate so tightly I thought she'd tear it in half. Nathan still hadn't said a word. He was just staring at the paper, his hands shaking. This was not how this was supposed to go for them. They thought they had one. They thought they were going to corner me in this hospital bed, pressure me, bully me into doing what they wanted. But they weren't dealing with the same woman they'd been pushing around for 4 years. I leaned back against the pillow, watching them unravel. There must be a mistake. Evelyn screamed, shoving the birth certificate at the nurse like she was demanding a refund. "You wrote the wrong name." The nurse, bless her soul, didn't even flinch. "This was confirmed by a legal paternity test," she said, completely unfazed. Evelyn reeled back like she'd been slapped. "A what?" she screeched, turning on me. You slept with someone else?" Her voice was so loud a second nurse poked her head in, probably thinking someone was flatlining. Nathan finally found his voice. "Claire," he whispered, his face pale. "Tell me this isn't true." I tilted my head, studying him like he was some strange new species. "You're really going to play that card?" I asked. "You? The guy who's been cheating on me for months?" And just like that, his entire act shattered. Nathan staggered back. I don't know what you're talking about." "Wrong move." I laughed. It wasn't even a real laugh, it was one of those dry, exhausted, "are you kidding me" laughs. "Really? I asked, tilting my head. You don't remember sneaking off to the gym every Tuesday and Thursday night? You don't remember suddenly having to work late every weekend? His eyes widened. You don't remember the night you came home at 2 a.m. with lipstick on your collar? His jaw clenched, but I wasn't done. You don't remember the private investigator I hired? I swear, if he could have disappeared into thin air, he would have. Evelyn was watching all of this, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. You're lying, she whispered. I turned to her, smiling. Oh, am I? I reached for my phone on the hospital tray. Because I have pictures. I pulled up a folder, flipped it around, and showed her everything. Nathan in a hotel lobby with his mistress. Nathan kissing her in his car. Nathan with his arm around her at a bar. Nathan sneaking into her apartment building. Evelyn made a horrible noise, like a dying animal. But the best part? The woman in the photos was someone Evelyn knew. Evelyn snatched the phone out of my hand, staring at the screen like she could change the reality of what she was seeing. Her hand was shaking. Because she recognized the woman. Oh my God, she whispered. Is that, oh yeah, I said, grinning now. That's her. Nathan collapsed into the chair next to him, putting his face in his hands. Evelyn was losing it. Because the woman in the photos, the one Nathan had been sleeping with, was someone Evelyn had been pushing him toward for years. A family friend. The perfect daughter of one of her wealthy acquaintances. Evelyn had been subtly trying to replace me with her for years, always talking about how classy and well-raised she was. And now? Her precious son had thrown his marriage away for her. And I had proof. Evelyn turned on Nathan so fast I thought her head might spin. How could you do this, she shrieked, shoving the phone in his face. To her? Nathan was silent. Because he knew. He knew there was no talking his way out of this. I let them scream at each other for a few minutes before I spoke again. Oh, I said, stretching my arms, and since I knew about the affair months ago, I went ahead and met with a lawyer. Nathan looked up, his face stricken. Wait, he rasped. Claire. Please, I held up a hand. Nope. You don't get to beg now. And then, I dropped the final bomb. Divorce papers are already filed. You'll be served by tomorrow morning. Evelyn gasped so hard I thought she might pass out. Nathan? He looked like a man who had just realized he had lost everything. And I was just getting started. The silence in the hospital room stretched way too long. Evelyn was gripping the birth certificate so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Nathan just sat there, staring at the floor, completely ruined. And me? I was feeling lighter than I had in months. I wasn't even mad anymore, I was thrilled. Watching the two of them scramble, watching their little power play blow up in their faces. This was better than anything I could have planned. But just when I thought this couldn't get any better, the next twist fell right into my lap. Evelyn suddenly rounded on me, wild-eyed. This doesn't make sense, she hissed. You got pregnant when? 9 months ago? I nodded. Yep. Her lips curled. Then you must have been cheating on Nathan the entire time. Nathan lifted his head slightly at that, like he was desperately grabbing onto some shred of control. That's right, he said weakly, his voice cracking. You lied to me, Claire. You had an affair. I laughed, genuinely laughed. Oh, honey, I said, shaking my head. I never lied. I just didn't tell you everything. Evelyn narrowed her eyes. You knew this whole time? I grinned. Oh, I knew. But that's not even the best part. And then, I went in for the kill. You know how I found out you were cheating? I asked Nathan, tilting my head. He hesitated. The private investigator? Nope, I said. I mean, yeah, he confirmed it, but that's not how I found out. I leaned in, lowering my voice just enough to make them listen closely. I found out, I whispered, because your mistress told me herself. Nathan flinched like I had just hit him. Evelyn gasped. And then? Nathan's phone started buzzing on the hospital tray. Nathan's head jerked toward the sound. It was sitting right there next to me, screen glowing. A name flashed across the screen, Madison. Evelyn's face drained of color. Because she knew who Madison was. Because she had been the one trying to push Madison and Nathan together for years. Because Madison was the same woman in the pictures I had just shown them. Nathan lunged for the phone, but I snatched it up first. Well, I mused. Guess she heard the news. Nathan looked like he was about to vomit. Evelyn snapped. She snatched the phone out of my hands and hit answer. "You home-wrecking trash," she screeched into the speaker. "How dare you ruin my son's marriage?" There was a pause. Then, over the speaker, Madison laughed. And what she said next? Oh, it was beautiful. "Oh, Evelyn, honey," Madison purred, her voice dripping with amusement, "your son's the one who ruined his own marriage. And you know what? You might want to sit down for this next part." Evelyn froze. Nathan's entire body locked up. Madison let out a sigh. "I wasn't going to say anything, but honestly? You both deserve this." Then, she dropped the bomb. "I'm pregnant." The room exploded. Evelyn lost it. She was screaming so hard her voice cracked. Nathan jumped to his feet, knocking over the hospital tray. "You're lying," Evelyn shrieked. "You're just trying to destroy him." "Oh, baby, no," Madison said sweetly. "I've got proof. I'll even send you the ultrasound if you want." Nathan sank back into the chair. "And me?" I just sat there, watching it all burn. Nathan finally managed to croak out, Is it mine?" "Oh, now you want to ask that?" Madison said, laughing again. Then, she sighed dramatically. "Yeah, Nathan," she said. "It's yours. And guess what? I already put your name on the birth certificate." Evelyn clutched her chest like she was about to have a heart attack. Nathan was hyperventilating. Then, the final nail in the coffin. Madison hummed. "Oh, and one last thing. I figured since you were too much of a coward to tell Claire about us, I'd let her know something you never told me either." Nathan swallowed hard. "What are you talking about?" Madison paused. "Then, you didn't tell me you were married when we started dating." I swear, Evelyn stopped breathing. Nathan jerked like he'd been electrocuted. "Madison, nope," she interrupted. "I'm done. Hope you two have fun dealing with this." "Oh, and Claire?" I raised an eyebrow. "You're a badass," she said. "Enjoy the rest of your life without this loser." Then, she hung up. And the room was completely silent. Nathan looked like a ghost. Evelyn collapsed into a chair, her head in her hands. And me? I reached for the water bottle on my bedside table, took a sip, and sighed. "Well," I said, "that worked out even better than I expected." The room was thick with silence. The kind of silence that follows a massive explosion, when the dust is still settling and the wreckage is all that remains. Evelyn had her head in her hands, her body shaking. I couldn't tell if she was crying, hyperventilating, or plotting my death. Nathan? He just sat there, his whole soul leaving his body. His face was pale, his hands were trembling, and for the first time since this whole mess started, he had no words. And me? I was just watching. Letting it all sink in. Evelyn suddenly shot up from the chair, eyes burning with rage. "This is your fault," she hissed at me. I raised an eyebrow. "How?" You set this up," she shrieked. "You're trying to ruin my son's life. You're trying to destroy us." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so pathetic. "You're seriously blaming me?" I asked, tilting my head. "Your son is the one who cheated. Your son knocked up his mistress. I didn't force him to do any of that. You trapped him." Evelyn screamed, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You tricked him into thinking the baby was his. You're disgusting." Nathan flinched but still said nothing. I let out a slow, steady breath. "You know what, Evelyn?" I said, my voice eerily calm. "Let's say you're right. Let's say I did set all this up." I leaned forward. "Why was it so easy?" Evelyn's mouth opened. Then closed. Because she knew. She knew the real answer. Nathan had made it easy. Nathan had destroyed himself. I had just been smart enough to let it happen. Evelyn's lip curled. "You'll pay for this." I shrugged. "What more can you take from me? I've already gotten rid of the worst part of my life, you and your son." She let out a strangled noise and then, in a last act of pure desperation, she turned on Nathan. And that was when the real show started. Evelyn lunged toward her son, grabbing his arm and shaking him like she could physically force him back into the perfect golden boy she had created in her mind. You have to fix this," she stammered. "You have to fix this. Claire will take you back." "Right, Claire?" I snorted. "Absolutely not. Nathan's head jerked toward me, his face filled with some kind of desperate hope. Claire, I held up a hand. No. I mean it, Nathan. We're done. I was already divorcing you before I even gave birth. I just waited for the right time to let you know. His eyes widened. You planned this? I planned to protect myself, I corrected. You planned your own downfall. Nathan looked like he was about to fall apart. Evelyn wasn't done yet. You have to save your marriage, she screamed. This will ruin us. What will people say? What will our family think? And then, the final, fatal mistake. She looked me up and down, sneering. You think anyone else will want you? A single mother? You're trash now. You'll die alone. Nathan's head snapped toward her so fast I thought he might get whiplash. Mom, he rasped. Stop. But she didn't stop. She was too far gone now. Do you know what I went through raising you? She yelled at Nathan. I made you perfect. And now you're ruining it for some whore who tricked you. And just like that, Nathan broke. Nathan stood up so fast his chair toppled over. His whole body was shaking. His eyes were bloodshot, his breathing ragged. And then, in a voice I had never heard from him before, he said, You made me like this. Evelyn froze. Nathan kept going. I never wanted to marry Claire, but you pushed me, he hissed. You told me it was time to settle down. You said I needed a wife who wouldn't question me, who would stay in her lane. I blinked. Well, that was news. You told me Madison was better for me, he spat. You told me to keep my options open. And I did. I did what you told me to do. He was spiraling now. You made me into a man who thought cheating was normal, he choked out. You taught me how to lie. You taught me how to pretend. You made me this way. I had never, in my entire marriage, seen Nathan like this. Evelyn stepped back, suddenly looking terrified of her own son. But Nathan wasn't done. And then, the final nail in the coffin. Nathan looked at me, his eyes filled with something I couldn't describe. I'm sorry, he whispered. I don't know who I am anymore. I felt nothing for him. Not hate, not sadness. Nothing. But I looked him right in the eyes and said, That's not my problem anymore. And then I pressed the call button for the nurse. She walked in a few moments later, took one look at the scene in front of her, and sighed deeply. Do I need to call security? She asked, already looking annoyed. Yes, I said. Get them out of my room. Nathan wilted. Evelyn screamed like a banshee. But I didn't care anymore. I watched as security escorted them out, as Evelyn kicked and screamed and called me every name under the sun. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Nathan tried everything to fix things. He sent messages. He even tried to send gifts. But I ignored it all. Evelyn launched a smear campaign against me. Too bad she forgot that I had proof of everything, including her involvement. The court sided with me immediately. Madison went no contact with Nathan after she realized just how much of a mess he was. Last I heard, she moved to a different city. I got everything I asked for in the divorce. The house. Full custody. Everything. Nathan got nothing. Evelyn lost her power. Without Nathan to control, she started lashing out at other people. Eventually, even her friends stopped dealing with her. And me? I'm happy. I have my child, my home, and peace. And if there's one thing I've learned? Revenge isn't always about destruction. Sometimes, it's just about setting yourself free.